Welcome back to another episode of City Life Uncensored. Pretty excited today. A little bit of a different, obviously we've had several folks from internal, but I think this one's really special given the circumstances around the podcast, everything that we're doing. I got our new chief marketing officer of City Life here to talk marketing a lot with us today, give us her story, why she's excited to be a part of City Life and the Pittsburgh journey and everything we're doing. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's really cool. You've been about 30 days?
Yeah, just past 30 days.
So it's crazy how time flies too,
I
right?
know. It feels like I've been with you guys for much longer than I don't know how it feels to you guys, but it feels, and I say that in a good way.
Yeah.
It feels like I've been with you for a long time now.
And it's also crazy, right? Like you'll start to really get the feel for how things change quickly at City Life and growth, right? Anytime you have growth, you have a lot of change. But we went through our first rendition of the official new marketing strategy that City Life's going to go. And I don't think we've had that for 4 years.
Yeah.
So
Super excited.
yeah, really.
A lot of anticipation building up to that.
Yeah, it's, obviously we thought you knocked it out of the park. So we're really excited. And obviously now really excited to have you on the podcast to share a little bit of your journey and, maybe, open it up to, telling the audience, right, a little bit more of the marketing plans here. Now that we've got a little bit of a strategy in place, we're going to start building the momentum there and really kind of build that out. So, just like everybody, where I like to start on this is, we got to get to know you a little bit, right?
Sure.
So, I always say, hey, give us your come up, right? So we'll start there, wherever you want to start ultimately, but we got to get to know you a little bit. So hit us with it.
All right. So I firmly believe everybody has a story. So I guess we'll start with the personal side of things. I am a Yinzer. My dad's family is all from like the Baden, Ambridge, Swickley area.
Okay.
My mom is from Sharon. I grew up in Edinburgh on a quarter horse farm. So I am an equestrian.
I'll tell you, I got to stop you already.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Edinburgh is so cold.
Okay. So
It's so cold there.
So yes. And there's like snow upon snow upon snow upon snow, right? So jumping ahead, and I'll explain this, but we had lived in Colorado for a little bit and we recently moved back home to the Berg. And I tried to prepare my 2 kids for snow. And so I told them stories growing up of like snow beyond the garage and you can't get out and, the blizzards coming off Lake Erie. And the first winter we were here, they're like, where's the snow? I'm like, oh, total mom fail. I kind of messed that one up. So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I remember a college recruiting trip there years ago. I'm like, there's no chance in hell I'm going here because it's way too cold.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah. But I will say this, like riding a horse in the powder, like it's fond memories,
Yeah.
Been watching Yellowstone recently, and that's all they do is ride horses.
horses.
So that's all I'm picturing right now.
I know. Yeah. Quarter horses. Yeah. That's a whole nother scenario.
Definitely not us city boys.
But we were always down in Pittsburgh and, all of my relatives lived here and I went to Bethany.
Okay.
So, we would always come up to Pittsburgh and growing up, the joke in my family was my dad was always like, you have to marry a Colorado boy. You have to marry a Colorado boy. Because when he was working for Hammer Mill at the time, it's international paper now, there was a point where they transferred him out to Littleton, Colorado. That's where my sister was born.
Okay.
So he was out there for a little bit.
Just before you or after you?
So I'm the oldest.
Okay.
And then there's my sister Danielle and then my younger brother Todd. And so Danielle was born in Littleton and, Colorado's absolutely gorgeous. And so we were out there for a little bit and then they transferred him back home, back to to this area. And that's where Todd was born. But he still had this love of Colorado. And he's like, you have to marry a Colorado boy. And wouldn't you know it, which is a whole nother story for another podcast. I met a Colorado boy.
Wow. Yep.
And when
off
we went. And off we went. And when they retired, they moved 5 miles from us until we decided to move home to Pittsburgh at the height of COVID. Eric accepted a job at Carnegie Mellon, and it was like 2 weeks later, everything shut down. We're like, we're still moving home.
Yeah.
And so we moved home. So that's kind of the personal side of things.
Okay.
Professionally,
Children, right?
I do have, yeah, we have 2 kiddos. Caden is a senior in high school, so we are totally on the college tour of the world right now. He actually just got home from a soccer workout with one of the college teams, and so he's narrowed it down. We're still kind of figuring that out.
You got to get them with all the soccer squad we have at CityLife.
Let me tell you something. They have been awesome. Once they heard that I had a son who played soccer, Evan and Sarah both came up to me and they're like, "Okay, what can we do?
Yeah.
Who can we call? Tell us what
Yeah.
position he plays. Like, what can we do to help?" They were, and you know what? Like that city life, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of who our family is. The minute they hear, "Oh, what can I do? How can I help?" That's kind of what happens here at City Life. And then I have Miss Grace. She is 9 going on 19.
Nice.
Yeah.
So she's ready to start
A
working at
little bit of an
CityLife?
age gap.
Oh my gosh. Like you need someone to go out and sell something? Just put Grace out there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she's ready. Just let her go.
Get her in early.
Mhm.
TJ's looking for a relationship manager
Oh
on disposition.
gosh. You're gonna have to put some real boundaries with that one. Let me tell you. Love her to death, but she's gonna be a fun handful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great.
So professionally went to Bethany and thought I wanted to be an anchor reporter. That's what I went to school for. Actually started my career right here in Pittsburgh. I worked at KDKA first
Nice.
and then PXI.
Okay.
Did some on-air work and immediately decided that is not what I wanted to do.
So shine this camera right in your face.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually quite comfortable on camera. I loved the journalism side of things and I loved the leadership side of things.
Okay.
So I went into newsroom management fairly quickly. And so I worked in Pittsburgh and then I worked in Toledo, Ohio, where I met my husband, Eric. He was my videographer editor. Again, story for another day. We moved to the Norfolk, Virginia market. That's where we got married. And then we moved to Denver. And so
Did
that's where
work
we were
take you
living.
to these places, right? Because I
Yeah.
know in the news industry, you move up markets, so to speak, right? I know at least when you're broadcasting or a news anchor reporter,
Mhm.
so it's the same in the kind of the back office too, right? Because there's only so many jobs you can have in that industry in the city you're in,
Right.
right? Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense.
So in journalism and broadcasting, and you move a lot around a lot. So your goal for most journalists is to move to bigger markets, right? Now for photojournalists like my husband, a lot of them want to get to really, really good photojournalism markets. Markets like Denver, Minneapolis, and it just so happened that Colorado was home for him. So it
Yeah,
Not
so
because of
worked
the
out well.
landscapes and everything.
No, it's just something about that industry, and they really value videography and storytelling through video.
Okay.
And so you see a lot of very high quality storytelling come out of those 2 markets. Not to say that you don't see that in other markets. You have a lot of concentrated, very high skilled videographers in those markets. And so it's one of the 2 markets that a lot of photojournalists really like to get to.
interesting.
Yeah. So, I was working in Denver, and at the time, I was working at KMGH TV. They had a broadcast division, and Mr. McGraw, when they got bought out by the McGraw-Hill Company, Mr.
Name
McGraw.
dropping, I like
know.
this.
Well,
What's up,
Mr.
Mr. McGraw? How you doing,
he
bro?
such a nice guy, like so incredibly nice. He really valued business process management.
Okay.
And so he had implemented it in the S&P world. And so he wanted to do that in broadcasting. So our president of broadcasting, who is one of my favorite people ever that I worked for, his name is Daryl Brown. And
Besides
he's
Casey Quinn, of course, but
I'm sorry.
I said besides Casey Quinn, of course.
Of course. Like it's Daryl Brown and then it's Casey Quinn.
No,
right
Casey
there.
Quinn and Daryl Brown.
Right
But
there.
anyway, I
Like
digress.
it's coming. They're like, we're getting like right there.
Tyler, make
you
sure you
know?
edit that. It's Casey Quinn and Brian Kirshen.
Change the way that she talks. Thanks.
We'll just edit that in. I know some good videographer editors. We'll just,
Yeah.
we got it. But they wanted to implement it into their broadcast division. And so the president of the broadcast division said, hey, you want to learn something new? And I'm like, I always want to learn something new. And
Love
so we went and did business process management. And if you're sitting listening to this podcast saying, what in the world is business process
I just was going to pretend I knew what it was. I mean, from a standpoint of wherever you're going to go with it, I have a general guess, but
here's how I explain it. There you go.
Charts.
Yeah. Well, you know
bubbles.
what? Here's the thing. When I walked in, like my first day, on the second floor, you walk around and there's that process map of,
Yep.
I was like, oh, it's business process management. Here's how I explain it to people. Like, tell me what in your job drives you absolutely crazy. Like, what do you complain about in the process? And we go in and we fix it.
Nice.
So that
Makes
that,
sense.
so that whatever's clogging up the system doesn't clog up the system anymore. So anyways, so I did that. And then Mr. McGraw's belief was I'm going to take people who are trained, and you get trained as either a green belt or black belt, not making this up. You have to earn a certification. It's a very, very difficult test, in my humble opinion, that you have to take. And then he puts you back into the company in a different area at a little bit higher level so that you can implement the skills that you learned.
Yep.
Okay. So they're like, you know what? We need someone in creative services marketing. And that's right when social media was kind of taking off. And so the president of the broadcast group said, hey, do you want to go back and try to launch this whole social media thing at your station in Denver and help the other stations in the group? I'm like, yeah, innovation. Of course of course I do. So I ended up having to.
And how long ago was this?
Oh gosh.
Back in 20.
I don't even.
2010-ish?
06.
05, 06?
I'm trying to think. It's been a while now. It was
Social,
before that.
Facebook came on, it was just college whenever I was at Duquesne. So it's got to be probably 2010, 2011 timeframe. Maybe right before that. Maybe like 08.
That sounds about right.
Did you launch them on MySpace?
No. I never had MySpace.
Wow, that's weird. I still got one.
Note to self.
That's going to be our prime channel to put this on.
Casey off MySpace.
I thought I was supposed to have that. I thought you told me to be active on MySpace.
MySpace name.
All right, so if anybody's listening to this, please go find if MySpace is still okay and follow Casey for me.
Yeah, she got a goal here to build out 1,000 of my MySpace followers
Yes,
in the
there
next
we go.
Q2.
Exactly.
Biggest MySpace following. We're taking over.
That's right. We're bringing it back. We're going to go retro.
That's a good tread.
80s and whatever. What is it? You said 2010? 2010s are coming back?
I think
No,
I
that
think
was
MySpace would have been before that. I think Facebook basically
Facebook,
became
right.
the college
it did.
thing
Yes.
in 2010-ish, 09 maybe, 08, 09,
Somewhere
10,
around
11,
there.
somewhere in those.
That's
No, I'm sorry. I graduated. It'd have been 06. Because 07 was when I was a freshman in college. And that's when I just remember sitting in my dorm room trying to get on Facebook to talk to ladies.
I had Facebook at 2006, probably same year. Same year I went to IUP.
So
because
the
I didn't
beginning
have
of
it in
college.
CCAC.
Yeah.
I graduated in 03.
Sorry, you're 4 years older than we were originally thinking.
Meanwhile, people who are like listening to this podcast, they're like yelling the year to us.
Yeah.
It's such.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, well,
So this is
whatever
back in 06. You
year
decided to
does,
take over media, social
taking
media.
over social media. And so, yeah, I earned my certification in BPM while I was learning new things in social media. You have me to blame. I was the first local TV station in the country to advertise on Facebook.
Nice.
And we kind of took
pretty
off
cool.
from there.
Nice.
So, did that for a while. And then gentleman by the name of Jerry Gumbert, who runs a company called AR&D, contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a chief marketing services officer to come teach television stations and businesses and educational school districts and the educators how to do all of this cool marketing stuff. Do you want to come work for me?" And I did that for a long time until I found it's like adopting it's like my forever family. City Life is going to be my forever
Love that.
family
There
until
we
I
go.
found you guys.
City lifer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
that's
the
it.
definition on the wall at the office now too,
I
as of
love it.
yesterday. I love that. The
They did a
definition of a
great
city
job.
lifer. Yeah. So you
That
were
was long. That was a long explanation.
well, I mean, you were at so basically really your entire career was at 3 companies?
So it was at several different stations, but all local news.
Yeah.
And then a consulting company for a really long time. And then here for as long as you guys keep me as a city lifer,
So why
part of the
so
family.
moved into consulting, right? Like and so I'm from consulting world
Hmm.
myself and a lot of what you talk about business process improvement, I think we called it something different, but I was in finance transformation, which was literally the same thing, where I would go in and fix basically diagram back office processes and then say, okay, here's the problems, right? And here's how we solve them by streamlining the process, right? It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool, right? You
It
get to
is.
fix and solve issues across a wide ranging process, right? Did it a long time, it sounds like for quite a bit, right? In the industry of which you were spent your career in.
Hmm.
Why the change? I mean, it's a pretty massive change, right? I mean, at the end of the day,
From
from
there to here.
from there to here, yeah, right. Consulting in the media industry for 20 years, it sounds
Yeah.
like almost.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going into 15, 20 years, whatever
Hmm.
that was. Pretty big career change at a point in time where you're pretty far into your career. And obviously, we talked about it, media extremely well.
Yeah.
So, like, what went into some of that decision making?
So when I first started talking with everyone here at City Life, what drew me were the values, like the values that you are building this company on. It's interesting because I was talking to a long time friend slash sales type partner that I have in Denver. And I was describing to her kind of the city life way, right? What we stand for, who we are, how we interact with our partners. And um, I was telling her, all of this. And she's like, okay, so you've learned all of this about them in 30 days. How does it how does that make you feel? And I said, "Well, no, didn't take me 30 days. It took me like 2 days and 3 or 4 or 5 interviews because you can feel it. Like it's just I wish it's something I could bottle up and like give to people. It is a different feeling working for working with this company. It is such a wonderful environment. We deeply believe in what our mission is. And when I was talking to this friend of mine back in Colorado, she said, "Robin, this is it is perfect for you. It sounds like it is a great, just well connected to who you are and what you always have wanted to do in your career." Like she said, everything you've done has kind of led up to this and who you are.
Let's go.
Because I talk a lot about my career has always been about building brands, right? For
Hmm.
whatever company I worked with. But I've also been really adamant about building professional brands. We've talked about building professional brands for the both of you. And anyone who is listening to this, I don't care what your job is, you need to know what your professional brand is and be able to say at the end of the day, I like who I am and what I'm doing, and I'm holding myself, accountable to what my brand is. And so throughout all of these different jobs, even though they've been kind of in the same industry, I know who I am. I told both of you this during my interview. And you can see it when you walk by my office. I have a sign on my door that says, "How can I help?" And that is the epitome of who I am. And it just, I think, fits so well with the values of this company that it's not just the three of us living out. Everybody does it day in and day out, no matter who we come in contact with.
Yeah, right. It's really cool because at City Life, there's a vibe of the company where, you know what I mean? If you're not being true to yourself and living your own internal core values and the core values of the company, we're not all bought in and living and breathing together from that standpoint, you quickly kind of become an outsider at the end of the day, right? And we all can live our own core values, which is really cool. Like me and you are very different people, but we can come together in an amazing way through sharing core values, through trying to be a good person in society and do great and add value and take care of each other and take care of people, right?
Hmm.
That's the really cool thing because the more people you get that are very different coming together that share, common core values, common goals and motives in life, you can really create something special. And that's what we continue to try to make the goal. And we were talking about it right the other day. Like City Life has become something bigger than
Yeah.
any of us individually at the company now. And that's something special that we should, market at the end of the day,
Right.
right? Like I'm sure you probably have that in the plans, but it's really cool. So it means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Brian and everybody at City Life that, right, somebody that cares so much and deeply about a brand can come in and quickly feel what it's like to be a City Lifer at the end of the day. So that's awesome. That's really, really cool. So with that being said, right, like how do we get that message out there a little bit now? Like how do we, because we've always struggled. We know that. We all feel that. We all love to be a part of City Life and we know what we've done. Like how do we start to experience that externally?
Mm. So, I think it comes down a lot to sharing stories. I mean, no matter what industry you work in, everybody has a story. Um, whether you're talking about your clients, your partners, the internal team that you work with, um, everyone has a story. And the key is finding out how that story relates to the brand and then deciding how you tell that story across what platform. And so, one of the things that we talk a lot about and we'll be talking a lot about in the marketing team is you have to be agile enough and honest enough to say, you know what, this is a great story. And here's how we're going to tell it. And it would be perfect for Facebook and our website. But you know what? It's not the right thing for Instagram. And that is okay. So finding that particular story, I think, is the first step for any marketing plan. Deciding the type of content and then the type of platform you're going to put it on. And, we love to talk about KPIs and no matter what business you're in, but making sure that you're staying on top of, okay, here's how this is performing. What were we looking for? Here's how it's performing. How were people reacting to it? What was the engagement? What was the reach? And keeping a really good diary, if you will, of how all of that goes. I call them hot lists. When I was back in consulting, what I would say to my clients is you have to create a hot list that physically sits on your desk next to you. And so as you're producing, creating all of this content, look at what is doing well and put it on the hot list. Look at what's not doing well and maybe draw a line and put it underneath. Every time something is doing well on your hot list, you need to go back to that well and say, you know what, this is content that's resonating with people. How can we do more of this?
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, what you're really doing is having a back and forth conversation with people on your platforms. And so, I know it's marketing, I know it's advertising, but it's city life. I think it's a little bit different because of how we have built the company and what the mission is. It's not like we have to go out there and say, all right, here's how we're going to advertise and here's the budget and here's the list of things that we're going to do. Do we have a list? Yes, of course we have a list. I wouldn't be sitting in this job if I didn't have a list. But that those core values and that feeling, that emotion that hopefully you're hearing from me, and if you're watching this podcast, you're seeing from me, that is going to naturally come out. Why? Because it's emotionally connecting with people. And so if you're listening to this and you're saying, you know what? I don't know if our brand emotionally connects with somebody. Like, I couldn't sit here and be this passionate about what our brand is. That for me would be step one. You need to go back and have a conversation about, can you get this passionate about your brand, and is it authentic and genuine? That passion that's coming from it, because this is who we are. This isn't something made up. This isn't something that we sat in a boardroom and hired a bunch of people and said, "Let's throw things at the wall." This
Yeah.
is literally who everybody in City Life is.
Yeah. I love that because I mean, especially for me, right? Like I always say I'm a one take guy. We've always talked about that because I always just say I'm just gonna speak the truth. And so
Mhm.
whatever comes out is what comes out, right? As long as it's genuine and authentic because it's just the truth. So I always call that one cut. Now I'm sure you're probably gonna make me actually we did a little filming and I had to take multiple cuts because it was a little bit more of a storytelling that we were
Mhm.
doing. Because I tend to veer off in certain ways when it's just whatever. But I truly believe, and it's cool because I always just equate it to like just say the truth, and then that's what emotionally connects because it's what's reality, and I'm not
Right.
trying to sugarcoat anything, right? It's interesting, right, to be able to tie it back to true storytelling, and that's kind of an emotional connection through storytelling is really kind of what sounds like we're ultimately after, right?
Yeah, because I think there's we talked yesterday, there's these two levels of marketing and branding. So there's the first level that a lot of companies are at, where I could show them a company and they'd be able to say, "Oh, yeah, I know that logo. I know who that is. I know what they sell or what they do." Um, they might be able to tell me some people associated with it. They could probably tell me, maybe I've used it before or I haven't, and that's about it. And a lot of companies are at that level. My goal in this role has always been to get um, the team and the company that I work with to that next level where it's an emotional connection. They see something and say, I love them. Oh my gosh. Did you see what they did on Facebook about so and so? They were wonderful. Or you know what? Like with City Life, hey, I needed this done. And not only did they do it, but they did it quickly and they were so nice about it because that's who we are,
Yeah.
right? That's
I mean, I
exactly
think that's the
that's what we
key.
want.
You've got to basically what you've got to be able to capture and display is what's really happening.
Hmm.
It's a lot easier if it's really happening. You're not trying to manufacture something that's not
Right.
true,
Right.
right? So, with that being said, right, like we had a town hall today and
Mhm.
we've made a big announcement. So, I'm going to turn it over to Brian and then because I want to talk about it with you here for a minute afterwards, kind of a little bit of the plans
Sure.
around City Life marketing. And so, what people can start to expect. So, BK?
Are you asking me to make the announcement here?
Yeah.
Do, 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 do.
Oh, man. So we officially are changing the name, tweaking the name a little bit. So City Life Realty Group has been our name for the last 4 years. Most people know us as City Life.
Technically, it's been the last 9 years.
Or
4 years of we had the entity. Brian created the entity 4 years before we made the actual company. Crazy enough, but anyway.
yeah, so City
So
Life.
you were smart a long time ago, is what I'm
I like
hearing.
the
Correct.
word City Life. And still like it. So we still have it in our name. So we are tweaking the name a little bit. City Life Realty Group signifies residential brokerage. Most people that know us and what we really do is we're an investment firm. We buy properties, we construct properties, we manage properties. That's what we do very well. So we wanted to tweak that name, and the new name is City Life Residential because it captures all of that. It doesn't specify or signify brokerage. It's more investment firm. So City Life, the key, all that stuff is still going to be a big part of our brand. Residential is now going to be the parent company, City Life Residential.
Yeah, right. City Life Realty Group more implies brokerage, the transactional based living, right? The buying and selling every day of real estate between homeowner A and homeowner B. That's not what City Life Residential is. What we are is an investment firm based in real estate looking to change the lives of everybody around us through investment in our community, through investment in our people, transforming lives and building happiness, right? And so we didn't want to have a brokerage based transactional type of name any longer. And so we decided, hey, let's look at it from a holistic approach. What really are we? Well, we're a residential real estate company, and we're an investment company, and we're City Life. So City Life Residential is what resonated. So with that being said,
Yeah.
what are some of the plans that we have in place for marketing?
Right. So, I mean, it first of all makes it clear, right? And if you don't, I would just say this before we talk about marketing. If you don't have what I call brand filters, I would suggest any company has them. And so, like, one of our brand filters may be, is what we're doing, like if we, as an example, if someone came to us and said, "Hey, would you partner with us on this event?" One of the things we could say is, would it transform lives? Would it strengthen the community? Would it make people in this area happy? Would it make our team members, the City Life family happy? That is clear. We get it. There's a yes or no answer to that,
I love that.
you know? So that's one of the things I would suggest for any company that is trying to get clarity in their brand moving forward.
Brian, this is unfortunate because it sounds like now basically we can't just do anything at the spur of the moment like we used to do.
Try me. Nah,
Note to self.
I'm glad because very urgent person. I like to get stuff out there. I like marketing. I like creating. I like that stuff. The hard part is having layers to it without uncertainty of what brand are we building. I like transactions though too. So like
Yeah.
naturally I'm a transaction person. I like it's not even just buying and selling. I just really
You're a
like
call to action guy. That's
yeah,
what you
very
are.
call to action. And I think storytelling and all that creates the credibility and it creates that you do want to connect with people. Like the people that I watch, follow on YouTube or whatever it is, I feel connected with them. To me, I'm not a good storyteller. So I always like pushing stuff out randomly to try getting a call to action to try
Mhm.
creating business. And that's what I always like. So having some kind of guidelines behind that and plans, I actually prefer that. It's just going to be getting used to is going to be the
Right.
Yeah.
never really because
And,
we've
I don't
tried
I
it.
don't think that's what ultimately we're saying here. I don't, you correct me,
No.
but we still want to do, we still want a call to action type of marketing. We're going to do that. That's how you make money at the end of the day, right? But there's a brand and a purpose and a story behind all of it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's what I mentioned about the multifamily stuff,
Uh-huh.
different things like that. Now I have somebody to, how does this incorporate? Like, how can we actually strategically do this? Where I just don't, all right, it's midnight. I'm bored. Let's throw out some stuff, see what happens.
Go down a TikTok hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Man, I can't just real quick, to your point, right? Like you are insanely creative when it comes to that stuff, right? But a lot of times for everything we have going on, it's extremely difficult to follow through with the idea, right? To really build out the idea, really build out the story, and then take it in action and execute.
Yep.
I'm the same way, right? So to your point, I think for both of us, we're both extremely excited. It's like, hey, we get this idea, we can just toss it off to you, and then like, okay, the idea comes to life. Where before it's like, this is a cool idea, but like we're gonna have to bring this thing to life, and we don't know how, so we can't, right? And
Yeah.
so then if we're just kind of dies, or we do it for 3 days, and it's like, oh, this is cool, but then like 19 things happen, and it kind of dies quickly,
Right.
right? Because we didn't really build out the story behind all of it, really build out the plan and all of that. So I think for both of us, we're really
Yeah.
excited for that. You more than me because we both know I'm not that creative. I'm a nerd accountant, so
Thousand ideas. Yeah. Thousand ideas. So super excited for it all and how that's all going to play out. And yeah, no,
Well,
I think it's going to be great.
I think marketing is this interesting dichotomy of, telling good stories takes time. That there's
you
like,
lost me at dichotomy.
I don't know. I don't know how to translate that into numbers. Beep boop, beep boop, boop boop. You don't want me to do numbers. But like telling good stories takes a little bit of time. We did a video for all our employees today that the hope was, again, the emotional connection to show in the past couple of years all the great things that they have done, that they brought to the company, and the connection that we have to this awesome city that we live in. We're all Berg proud. We're all Yinzers. There's something just so special about Pittsburgh. And I can go on and on and on, but even though I had moved away for a couple of years, my goal was always to get back home because there's just something special about the city in which we live. And, I think city life connects to that as well. I'm off track now.
Well,
So,
to your point, I mean, I don't know if I'm proud to say this or not, but I don't know if it's an HR foul or not, but it is what it is, right? We've got a lot of hires out there. We're looking to hire and bring on several people right now into the organization. And talking with Leandra, like, I'm extremely biased to hiring local Pittsburgh people or people that are from here that have the connection to the city more than, we always want top talent,
mhm.
but I can't help it and I've made the comment, myself and Leandra talking about it, like, if they're not from Pittsburgh, like, I don't really care to talk to them right now, which is probably the wrong answer, but it's just a fact of the way that we are thinking and the way that I'm thinking right now, to your point. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it's just truth.
Well, and let me just say this. As one of the newer employees in this company, if anyone is listening to this podcast and is saying, and you should be saying, this sounds like a really cool group of people to work with a awesome company that has great values. You are 100% right. You are welcome to reach out to me, and I will put you in contact with our very awesome HR director. We have several positions open, and no, neither one of them asked me to
She's
pitch this.
sales too, isn't she?
Wait, they did not ask me to do this, but I'm telling you, like, if I had any people that I knew that would fill these positions, I would be on the phone right now going, you have to apply for these
You
jobs.
better tell TJ to watch out. She might be taking his sales
That's
job.
that's a call to action right there,
Right,
video right
it
there.
is.
So
It
that's
really
perfect.
is. Yeah.
So give us a little insight into the next 90 days in our marketing world.
So,
Can't tell too much though, but
we could, yeah. Well, here's what I would say. If you want to see the way in which a company can come together and really get behind a marketing plan, start to follow City Life Residential on all of our platforms. Look for us everywhere because we want, just like you all are, we are all Berg proud and we want to make sure that we are connecting with this city. We are connecting with the Yinzers just like we are. And so you will start to see us everywhere on all platforms across the city doing good work. And I think that's really important. We care about our investors. We care about our tenants. We care about our neighbors. And so that's where you will see City Life Residential really start to take hold. And, I will just say this, if you see something out there and you're like, hey, that's a really cool idea, or I'd really like to be a part of this, or this is a company that I would love to do some outreach with, I am 100% open to that, and I would love to talk to people about that because that's what we want to do. So you can find me on Linktree. It's just Robin Hoffman. All my sites are there, and
is Linktree like a website? I don't even know what that is.
You have one.
I'm glad you said that because I was gonna say, how do I break this to him gently
It's the site that keeps all of your links.
so
Ah,
that they can find you on
Sounds
Facebook
pretty
and
obvious, a
Link
link
that
Instagram.
has your
tree.
other
Yeah.
5 links.
Yeah. Cool.
Your MySpace is not going to be on
Yeah,
there.
come on,
I'm
guys.
so sorry.
Listen, I got one platform. I work on MySpace. So
So
if you
we're-
want to find me,
Want to
It's,
simplify things, that's how we do it.
it's I don't even know my handle, but it's at myspace.com.
So after you find me, then I want you to go find Casey because we're going to get his. You're going to be able to follow him on all his as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Brian too. But Brian, Brian knows where he's at on all his handles.
I think so.
Well, you've
Yeah.
done a lot of, up until this point, you've handled a lot of your own with help, but like
Done a great job.
you've managed all of your own
Yeah.
personal stuff, right? Up until this point.
honestly, over the last probably I have, but over the last probably 30 to 60 days, I started having Anna really help me and Laura like clean it up, knowing that we needed marketing, we needed to get something. So started to really clean up some of the sites, some of the back end that way, just to make your job a little easier when you came in. That way you didn't have to navigate and dive into all of my mess that I created as well. There's still a big mess there, but less of a mess. So I started getting a little more
Yeah,
organized.
you did a good job.
Thank you.
You are a
I got a
social
link
media
tree
guy.
up there.
Hey,
See that?
So he's I mean, you'll learn this about Brian. He's the biggest call to action guy in the world. So anytime you start talking marketing, he loves everything else. So it's going to be exciting to see you two blossom together.
uh-huh.
But he's always just been historically, okay, how do we make money directly from this? Right. So that's why he's so good. He was so good as a real estate agent. He's so good on acquisitions, right? Because he's such a call to action guy. Like, hey, how do we immediately win from this? Whereas branding, as you know,
Mhm.
it's probably more important at the end of the day, especially for long-term longevity, for scale, for all of those things. But at the end of the, and then creating organic, like that's basically creating organic calls to action at the end of the day. But right, it's patience, which Brian and I historically don't have a ton of it when it comes to
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
more
of
the
those
patience part
things.
to build this story. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm very excited to be able the City Life story. I mean, all of
Yeah.
our employees, our teams, like there's so much that happens on a daily basis from a content standpoint that we do. There's so many stories. I mean, we have 15 renovation projects going right now. Like I know people out there just they post every day about their one renovation project. We have 15 going at any given time. I think 9 or 10 houses under contract. There's a lot of stuff that happens. Managing 900 units, owning 600 plus units. There is a lot of content. Like just today alone, I was at a town hall meeting and there's so much stuff happening. It's too hard to capture it all. And but that credibility and just having that story behind what everybody's doing, how
Yeah.
everybody's working together, like that, I'm super excited for that because be dead honest, I love call to action because that'll like the credibility helps you and all that storytelling helps you with the call to action. The call to action just kind of, all right, let's throw some shit at the wall sometimes and hope it sticks with friends and family and people that you already have credibility built with in a relationship, emotional connection with. Trying to create that emotional connection that we don't have with everybody else to showcase everyone in our company that's doing great. They're doing great things for their
Mhm.
own personal brands. For, I mean, our whole property management company, they do such an amazing job and they have for years. And I
Yeah.
feel like they've got showcased like none so far just because we're not doing real call to action stuff behind it, and we're not building any real stories. So there's so
Right.
many stories happening. Tying that all together is just going to be it's going to be amazing to watch, and I know it is going to be a process. That's where my patience is kind of out, but I'm excited somebody else is going to
But it's
put it together.
exciting. You
It's
know what I
super exciting.
loved at the town hall? When Mikey Lucas showed the after pictures of the renovations, and you could hear everyone in the room, they're like, because it was just gorgeous. I mean, they just do such a good job that everyone was like,
Yeah,
It's been so overdue, and it's not like I cared. I mean, I do care. I really want to show it to the world. But, like, we deserve more of that external recognition
"Mhm,
across the company for all of the amazing investment in the
yes,
communities, to transforming lives, to building happiness that we're doing for our tenants, for our people. The work is amazing. I mean, when you two are sitting there just talking, I'm sitting there in my head like, all right, I just want to be done with this podcast. I want to get back to work. Like, I want to get back to doing what
yeah,
we do so well because it gets so exciting. And I like to that point, like, it's gonna be cool to watch you start to really, you and the team and everybody really put that together because you've been extremely adamant, right? And you can maybe speak to this for a second around, I'm not creating the marketing. The company creates the marketing. I help organize and get it out there, but we're gonna have right 40 something people
mhm."
right now. And as we grow, our marketing efforts and team is just gonna continue to grow. So maybe speak to that.
Yeah. So, I think in a company, and it doesn't matter to me what industry you're in, it's not the marketing team. And if you have one person who's in, it doesn't matter to me if you have one person in marketing or you have 20 people in marketing. You have the number of people that are in your company, they are all content creators because someone can easily, when they're doing their job, whatever that function is, can take their camera, turn it around, take a selfie of what they're doing. Or if they're out in the field doing something, they can take a picture or, think about what it is, the value that they bring every single day not just to the company, but flip that around and say, who outside of the company are they bringing value to? And look at it from that standpoint. One of the good things that came out of everyone being in lockdown in COVID is that we had to create content in a different way. And so people are very used to videos and photos and things taken on a phone. It's actually better sometimes than taken with really nice equipment. And so things like that, when you can get everyone involved in getting content that you can use across any of your channels, all it does is not only magnifies what good everyone is doing, it promotes the brand, and it also gives, and I'm very, very adamant about this, it gives recognition to the great work that your employees are doing. Because not in this company, but in other companies that I have worked with, I think if I had one piece of advice from a leadership standpoint, is that everyone, if you're in a leadership or managerial role, you should always take some time every day to compliment somebody on your team or someone who's outside of your team in what they do. Because we as people in the world just need to get better about complimenting
Yeah,
others.
I love
I
that
agree.
for sure. Well, you're doing a fantastic job so far for City Life
Thank
Marketing.
you. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yeah. Along those lines, then maybe, right? Like, when we started this podcast specifically, right? It was kind of like, let's just get it going. Let's get on mics and let's just kind of talk, right? And we named it Uncensored because we said, hey, let's just have an open conversation with our guests around, their entrepreneur journey, their investment journey, or their career journey, whatever it ultimately is. And we've continued to do that, right, without a real storyline or a real focus behind why it is what we're doing. And we've gotten a ton of amazing compliments. A lot of people are picking up, watching it and really enjoying it and learning a ton.
Right.
What's the plan for our podcast now that we've got you kind of steering our ship here moving forward?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me because this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like, this was great. Just like anything, I think there's an evolution to content that you produce. And so for the podcast, we're really also centered on our connection to Pittsburgh because we are so Berg proud. And so we want to continue to focus on giving content that matters, that educates. And so that's not going to change. We will continue to do those sort of things. We also want to open it up to additional guests. So, whether they're newsmakers in the area, they're folks that you may follow on TikTok. And yes, I do think there's a place for TikTok in the marketing world. But, we would love to have different folks from the places that you love to go on here to talk about their connection to our city and what's next for them. So again, another we're really into the call to actions today. Like, that's our
I don't
thing.
say much. I just drive the call to action just
You,
by staring.
I, you're
Better
doing
sell
an
something though.
excellent job.
Well, you got to hit the call to action. Come on, you got to say
Excellent.
it. What's the
So
call
if
to action?
anyone's out there, like, we would love to have you on to talk about how you're making a difference or, what's next for, if it, like Pittsburgh Dad or Permani Brothers or anyone like that. Like, what you all have made a difference in our city. You've all left your footprint. And we would love to have you come
Love it.
on and tell your story as well. So,
Pittsburgh business owners.
Yeah. So shout out to
absolutely.
everybody out there listening, or if you know somebody that would make for a cool podcast, right? To hear their story, to hear what they're doing to change the city landscape, would love to have them on there. Cool. And I think maybe potentially at some point we're going to be changing our name. It sounds like, but I don't think we have a name yet. So we'll keep tossing that around
Yes.
until we get to something that we can all agree on.
Yes,
We'll
absolutely.
get around to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it, but I know names are important, so we'll figure what out. Call to action. Anybody got a great idea for the change in the name to the City Life podcast over time based
Ooh, I
on
love it.
That's a good idea.
the route that we're
Yeah.
going here from invest in the greatest city on earth, which is Pittsburgh. Certainly, shoot that out to us. So kind of wrap things up, right? I'm going to ask you the same questions I like to ask
Okay.
everybody towards the end of the podcast, right? So no surprises here because I did tip you off a little bit. So the answers better be amazing.
You had a
No,
lot
but
of time to think
pressure.
about it.
right, like
Pressure.
where do you see yourself specifically in 5 years? I sure hope you answer City Life, right? But where does your life look like in 5 years, and what are you going after?
So the answer is CityLife. There's no question about it. You could have asked me 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, my career is here. There is no doubt in my mind. And, again, I think that speaks to the values of this company that in 30 days, I can sit here honestly and say, I'm here.
Um,
And so, in 5 years, I want to be able to sit here on this couch again and say, look at all of the wonderful, impactful things we did for the city of Pittsburgh, for the communities in which we all work and play, and the people who live there. That's what I want.
Love that.
Love that.
Let's go.
I shouldn't break it to you. After we were done recording No BS, I was going to say we should get rid of this couch and that chair. Just for 2 chairs because it's hard looking, like left.
I've been saying that from the beginning. It's a weird setup
It
this
needs
way
to be
with the,
rounded a little
yeah.
more. Like it needs just 3 big, nice
Yeah, you
chairs.
Okay.
in theory you need to be like right there somehow.
Yeah, like exactly.
Yeah.
And this needs shrunk.
Same
Anyway,
comment
either way, we'll
on
keep
this
the
podcast.
we'll keep the
Maybe
couch
different
in
furniture.
a different part of the
So I'm going to add to my calendar 5 years from today.
I
we're
love
gonna
it.
we're gonna record
gonna
that
do it.
podcast and talk about our marketing, how far it's came, where the company's come,
We're doing
everything
it.
we've done,
It's perfect. Love that
etc.
idea.
We're doing it.
Leandra, can you help me here? Keep me organized and get that on my
Note to
calendar.
self, put it on Casey's MySpace.
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes, we're going to add that to the MySpace calendar.
Tyler,
for
do
sure.
a reel with that and just play it every day so we remember. Schedule it 5 years out to play.
Or it could be in my notes on my phone, which is just like 77 notes deep of just sit there until I eventually go back and look at it all. Cool. Best advice. What's the best advice you can give to our listeners right now?
Figure out who you are personally and professionally and stick to it. Because no matter where you are, what your job is, where you're living, that's going to serve you best in your life.
I love that. I'm going to actually ask you a follow-up to that because it was so good. Any tips on how to do that? Meaning, right? Like, okay, I figured out who I am and I want to live this way, right? Et cetera, whatever that ultimately means. How do I do that, right? Because it's so easy to fall off track every single day. We call it, in a business world, we call it the shiny object syndrome,
Yeah.
which we all live and breathe every day. And it's so difficult. And we've made a lot of mistakes along City Life's journey over the last 4 years of following shiny objects, especially when you have Brian and I kind of at the helm of that decision making because we're go-getters, right? We're high A type people. So what is the best advice you can give for someone to stick to that, their core values at the end of the day?
Mhm. I mean, I can tell you what I did. For me, I'm a very visual person. So Tyler, I will give you a picture. You can show it for those watching the podcast. I love sticky notes. So
Yeah.
I will put things up on the wall so that I can visually see them when I'm building out a plan. But for me, when I was talking about, at the end of the day, I am about how can I help? And it doesn't matter to me if it's a big thing, if it's a little thing, just how can I help you? I purchased a little dry erase little chalkboard and I wrote it on there, and it has been in every single office. When I was working from home, it was in that office. It was the first thing I brought into my CityLife residential office, and it still is hanging on the door, and it will always be there no matter, what office I'm in CityLife. It's going to be right there.
Love that.
The other thing I would say is if you're type A personality like me, this was a wonderful question I got asked in an interview once, and I've kind of melted it into my daily routine. Someone said, "What is it that keeps you up at night?" And I thought, you know what? There's always something that kind of keeps you up at night. Like I usually wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, "Oh, what about da-da-da-da-da?"
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that keeps you up at night, write it down. Or if there's something that, like at the end of the night, right before you go to bed, you're like, "Oh, what about da-na-na-na?" Write it down and take care of it immediately. Because if you don't, it will live in your brain, and then you just can't, you have to get it out of your way. Because otherwise,
Sure.
nothing else that you have on your list for that next day, nothing else that you want to accomplish in your life is going to happen.
I love that.
So there you go.
I'll
2
throw
for the
out,
price of 1.
yeah, and I'll throw out another one to make it 3 for the price of 1
All
is,
right. You're next.
you know, people, you know, I forget and I apologize to the author of the book. I forget the name of the book, but it is what it is. Write down the 3 most important things every night that you must do tomorrow.
Eat
Right.
that frog.
Is that what it's from?
Brian Tracy.
Yeah.
I eat the frog every day. Yeah, I got a little book in there. I still have to handwrite everything, but
Yeah.
from that book, it was one of the most powerful books. Short, easy to read book. It was perfect for me. It was one of the first books I read in my 20s. Like,
Did you read it or listen to it? Was there audiobooks?
I
in your
actually
20s?
read that one. That was one of the first books I probably read 4 books my entire life, like actual physically read 4 to 5 books. And that was one of the first ones that I read.
Well, you also now have to read my book long text messages. So there you got that too.
That's a process.
So you know what we did? We took a little bookshelf in our living room, and we have, I think we're probably up to 10 books. And to graduate from our household, you have to read those books for our kids.
Love
And
it.
they're like a totally different, some are just life books you need to read, there's a historical book in there, but
That's
all of
cool.
our kids have to read those books. And the one that reminded me of that is there's one called Make Your Bed. It's really short, really, really good, but it talks about those kind of like
Yeah.
things you should do every
Every day.
day that will help get other stuff out of your way so you can go accomplish.
I've
those
definitely heard
things
the
that
make the bed thing, and I definitely don't ever make my bed.
I don't either. It's
Yeah.
never.
I don't.
But my husband does. So,
Yeah. Kelsey does as
Yeah.
well. So,
anyways,
Tenet, where can we find you?
okay. So Linktree, Robin Hoffman, everything's there. In case we'll get
So, like, where do I go on link? If I wanted to find you right now and you just said it, do I go on linktree.com?
/Robin Hoffman.
Instead of just looking up just your Instagram, so you go to that.
Why
link tree, then you see all of yours.
Why don't more people say that? Because every time that question gets asked, I hear, you know, not on this, but all podcasts, and find me on Instagram with this name and Facebook on this name. I guess it just organizes it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people I think are, they're really focused on one particular platform or another, which is totally
Yeah.
fine.
So if you want to grow your
I
Instagram
just-
following, you say, follow me on Instagram.
Correct.
Here's my name.
Does his profile? I believe you have one too, right in your Instagram profile. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. Tyler, shout out Tyler if he created me one. I don't know.
If not, we'll make sure
He's
you
going to
get
have one.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, we appreciate having you here. We're going to mark it down. I'm sure you'll be on here again from an educational standpoint over the next 5 years, right? But and I'm sure the audience will be seeing a lot more of you from a CityLife marketing and branding and getting us out there perspective. But we're gonna come back on this in 5 years and reflect
Dang.
on how far we've come as a company. And I can't wait for that.
Me too. Thanks so much.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate
Love
you.
it.
Thanks.